Whoa. Wow. What? This is the new HomePod Mini, Apple's smaller version of the standard HomePod that was released a few years ago. And while the audio quality is tremendous on the bigger brother, it's harder to recommend at that price tag due to limitations with Siri. Now, we fast forward to today, and now we have the smaller new HomePod Mini that comes in at only $99. Is it worth picking up? Now, I'm not going to make you wait until the end to tell you. I do think it's worth picking up, but there are a couple of questions that you need to answer. Do you use HomeKit products, and are you pretty heavily invested in the Apple ecosystem? Those are really my two main questions, and if you answer yes to pretty much either one of those two questions, then yes, you should absolutely pick this guy up. If you're looking for a voice assistant that is far more powerful and more capable of doing, some pretty complex things like creating custom skills that you can do with Amazon's Echo, with the Alexa, ecosystem, or even Google Assistant, then the HomePod might not be still the best option for you. But I could be way off base here. I just assume most average consumers would use a smart speaker to play music, answer basic questions, like how many ounces are in a cup? How many ounces are in a cup?
1 cup is 8 fluid ounces.
Okay. Or, help control some of your smart home devices, like turning lights on or off. Turn off the lamp.
Okay, the lamp is off.
Yeah, if you're looking to do any of these things, then the HomePod is more than capable. Now, if audio quality is important to you, then yeah, this is more than what you need. In fact, it sounds incredible. I honestly have no idea how Apple does this kind of thing. Just allow me to geek out for a minute here. What they've done with something this tiny, packing that sound, is simply incredible. Now, we can throw Apple's computational audio jargon around all we want. It's still just mind-blowing to me that they were able to make something this small sound this good. I can raise this thing to full volume and it still sounds perfectly clear. There's no distortion or crackling whatsoever. It doesn't sound like the drivers are being overworked or something is rattling inside. That sound that a speaker makes when you really crank it up, it doesn't do that. It just sounds just as clear as it would if you had it at medium volume as you would crank it all the way up. It's just crazy. If you think I'm making too big of a deal of the sound quality, you have to understand, look at the size. It's tiny. Look at it compared to a standard HomePod. It's just night and day how much bigger the regular HomePod is compared to this thing. And even other speakers in its class, it's still pretty tiny and can produce an incredible sound. Now, in terms of design, it's pretty similar to the bigger brother, the standard HomePod. It's got that mesh fabric all the way around with a plastic glass? I think it's plastic. I honestly don't know. But at the top is the touch area that you can interact with for Siri. You can control playback and you can control volume. It lights up whenever you touch it or whenever you ask Siri to do something, which is kind of cool, but also pretty much the same as what the larger HomePod can do. The main difference in design, aside from the size, is that this thing comes with a USB-C cable attached to the HomePod instead of a standard AC plug, which we saw in the larger HomePod. Now, inside of the box, you do get a 20-watt charger. Don't worry, it's in there. But I feel like an AC plug just takes up less space when you're trying to plug it into something as opposed to a chunky adapter. I don't know, I kind of maybe would have preferred an AC plug. I don't think you're going to be taking this thing around the house. Pretty much wherever you find a spot is where you're going to want to keep it. And so being able to take up less space when plugging in multiple items in one outlet is kind of what I would have gone for here, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Now, earlier I said that if you were heavily invested in Apple devices, the ecosystem, services, etc., then you should pick this up. And there was a point to that because this thing works really well with other Apple products and services. For example, if you buy 2 HomePods, you can stereo pair them together for even larger, more immersive sound. You can also stereo pair them and play them with your TV for a kind of home theater setup. Well, kind of. Only the big HomePod lets you set your stereo pair as your audio output by default, but it is possible to one-off AirPlay what you're watching on your screen to your stereo pair of HomePod minis. It just won't be the default setup. Now, I haven't had a chance to test the stereo pair with the HomePod mini specifically, as I'm waiting for another HomePod mini to come in, but I have used it on the bigger HomePods, and it does work really, really well, and obviously you're just getting a lot of sound. You can also hand off content from your iPhone to your HomePod or vice versa by simply bringing your device near your HomePod. Now, I'm still trying to find that sweet spot and how exactly you figure out the right area in which this works. It's worked a couple of times in my very limited time frame of testing. So to me, it's rather inconsistent, but I'm just kind of still working out the kinks there. But yeah, it's really nice to be able to pick up right where you leave off with a song or a phone call. Maybe you're in the car and you're listening to something and you want to keep that going. As soon as you walk in, just bring your phone, and in theory, it should transfer. Also, on the way out the door, you can transfer music from your HomePod to your iPhone. So it's pretty cool. Now, Spotify users, you can still use a HomePod. I'm a Spotify user. You just have to AirPlay it. Hopefully in the future, now that the Spotify app has its own standalone app with the Apple Watch, maybe in the future, Apple will open this up. But as of right now, if you're an Apple Music user, it's going to be much better to change music with your voice as opposed to having to pick up your phone. But you can still use Spotify or any other audio content app that you use. But if you use Apple Music, podcasts, etc., obviously it works so much better. Now, we also tested the new intercom feature in a previous video with the older HomePod, and obviously that works just as well here. It works the same way. All you do is tell Siri to intercom a message, and it will relay it throughout your home, or you can say a specific room if you want to relay a message to that specific room. Then, of course, there are Siri's everyday capabilities of answering questions and helping you with tasks, including controlling smart home products that are HomeKit capable. Like what I have behind me here, there's a lamp. I can say, change the color of the lamp to blue.
Voila, blue.
Voila, blue. So, these are basic things that I think most people would use with a voice assistant. And I think Siri has improved in a lot of other areas. I don't think it's still better than Google Assistant or Amazon's Alexa, but it's still getting better, and hopefully it will improve each and every year that Apple adds, dedicated time to update it. I really only use a voice assistant for basic tasks like adjusting a thermostat or turning on lights on and off, adjusting colors, etc. So to me, a HomePod would work perfectly fine, but I use Google Assistant because I have way more compatible devices that are strictly Google Assistant, like Nest cameras and doorbells and stuff like that. Otherwise, I would definitely consider switching to this full-time in my house. I still am considering it. I just need to find alternatives for HomeKit instead. But to sum it up, the HomePod mini is a much more affordable, smaller version of the standard HomePod that sounds incredible given its tiny form factor. And it can do all of the things that a standard HomePod can do for the most part, and hopefully all of the things an average consumer would want a home assistant speaker to do. Now, it is more expensive than some of the other entry-level options like an Echo Dot or a Nest Mini, but I'm willing to bet a lot of money that it sounds a lot better than those products. In fact, we will actually put that to the test very, very soon in a future video, so be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video. And yeah, let me know what you think of the new HomePod mini in the comments down below. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.
So what you say, Mrs. Davis? No